I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today we are talking we're talking Peacemaker, actually. So,
I can't tell if that was on purpose or not. I can't tell if that was a joke.
No, we will be talking about the Batman very, very soon. Yes, we have seen it, but I think we want to see it a couple more times, really digest it, get all our thoughts together, and we'll be back later next week to talk about it. But right now, we are talking another DCEU. Well, I guess this one is DCEU movie or TV show, Peacemaker. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, to make sure you're updated on all episodes of Podcast 2 for 1, as well as all the cool content we have at 2 for 1 Studios. You can always go to 2for1studios.com or youtube.com/2for1studios, the best place to consume the content. There we have all kinds of original content, as well as 2 for 1 Joe Live on Mondays at 9 a.m., where we bring you all the latest nerdy news that you need to know about. And if you didn't know, we are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course special guest appearances throughout the year. I don't have to read anything, Daniel. That's all in my head now. Like, I've done it so much.
I believe you.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Thank you.
It's a smooth, oiled machine.
I'm glad it feels that way to you. It doesn't to me as I'm blurting it out, but I'm like, am I stuttering? Am I messing up? But no, everyone, we're talking Peacemaker, James Gunn's latest addition to the DC canon, and me and Daniel have thoughts as always. So Daniel, real quick, before we get into this in more detail, I want your general thoughts on the show, what your expectations were going in, after leaving the Suicide Squad in 2021, and then jumping into this 8-episode limited series.
Yeah. So I loved the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I think for me, that's the best DCEU in terms of connected universe DC movies that I've seen, period. And so my expectations were fairly high going into this, just because I loved John Cena in it. I thought he was fantastic as Peacemaker. His kind of rivalry back and forth with Idris Elba was fantastic.
Bloodsport, yeah.
Yeah, Bloodsport, yes. I almost said Deadshot. Bloodsport and Deadshot, I always mix up those names for some reason.
They're the same character, really. So.
Oh, is that why? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
My expectations were pretty high going in, and yet my expectations were surpassed. I thought this show was fantastic. It kind of delivered everything that I want from a superhero genre in terms of it's funny, it's heartfelt, it's got good action, it's got interesting characters and good growth and development of those characters. It had kind of that trademark James Gunn team atmosphere. He's just so good with doing team shows and really building this camaraderie I think he's really good at how he will start as like a group of people that are very disjointed, disconnected, disparate, and then as the course of the story become this really solid, tight group. And I thought he nailed it in this. I thought this was maybe the most I've seen like James Gunn be in his element, almost, in terms of like creating a superhero show. Like, he had less Disney-like restrictions, I think, in terms of just content. I mean, it's very vulgar show and gory as well, and even just like nudity and stuff. So I just felt like this might be the best we've had of James Gunn, period, in terms of like what he has done in the superhero genre. It's up there with Guardians, honestly, for me, and just in terms of the vision and the
bold
execution.
claims.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Do I like it more than Guardians of the Galaxy? I don't, because Guardians, even though, I mean, I love Peacemaker, but Guardians like hits me emotionally, 1 and 2, like in the feels pretty hard. And if a movie can make me cry, it automatically like becomes in the top 10 that year, and it becomes the what made me cry the most. That's kind of how I gauge things. It really is. So, I mean, okay, like, yeah, first of all, I think you're right. I think James Gunn is totally in his element here. We talked when we did the Suicide Squad podcast last year. James Gunn comes from the Trauma days, right, where he does Romeo and Juliet, and he's working with I can't think of his name now, Lloyd Kaufman from who created Trauma, the Toxic Avenger, those kind of things. The gory, very raunchy kind of humor and that kind of stuff. But James Gunn has always managed to kind of bring in this extra element of heart and charisma. And I think the thing you really touched upon there that was good was the idea of people that you never heard of before and caring about them and then bringing them together as a team unit. He's always been good at that. He's good at ensemble films. He wrote Dawn of the Dead. I enjoy Scooby-Doo, the live action ones. I do. I think they're fun adaptations.
I like the first one. I like the first one. The second one's a little.
I actually like the second one, might be a little more actually. But
oh, wow.
Yeah. He doesn't really care for the writing part of that. But then you look at things like Slither and Super. These are more still, it's not just one protagonist. Typically Super's a little different, but yeah, Guardians, getting into that, we start getting these giant ensemble things, and it definitely seems like that's his wheelhouse. And Suicide Squad was in my top 5 of last year, 2021. I really loved it. I had a good time with it. I did think that, of course, there was some James Gunn elements in it that are a little too much for me sometimes, that just don't always hit the right comedic notes. But most of the time it does, and it's fun, I'm enjoying it. So whenever this, after we got the after credit sequence with Peacemaker actually being alive after his duel with Bloodsport, then it was like, oh snap, okay, we knew Peacemaker was coming. We didn't know if it was a prequel show or not, but now we know definitely it's a sequel show. And it's HBO Max's first DCEU programming, right? And so
yes,
it came out pretty quickly. I mean, he shot this during COVID. He had things were shut down. He decided to write something, and he talked to John Cena, and John Cena was obviously down for it because he hasn't had something as this big at all before in terms of acting career at all.
No.
And so he was
Absolutely.
wanting to get into that realm, and he really busted through in a big way here. I really like the show. I think the humor is fun. James Gunn has a great sense of needle drop and showing music that you maybe have heard of, but also that you probably didn't hear of. And also, again, just kind of building up the team element. And most importantly, really finding out, I think the most crucial thing about the show was, Peacemaker is really sympathetic. I think
absolutely,
when you watch the first movie, you're like, man, this guy's a dick bag, X, Y, and Z, and he obviously is got some problems. But the big thing is, to me, in the Suicide Squad, Daniel, was when he does kill Rick Flag, and he says, "Peace, what a fucking joke." And you could just see, like, he did not want to do that. He did not want to kill Rick Flag because Rick Flag was and is a patriot, and it was like he's doing something he truly felt like he didn't want to do anymore. And that's kind of where we pick up, right, psychologically with him. What's some of the things that stood out to you throughout this whole 8-episode arc here?
I mean, I think John Cena's performance, while it is an ensemble, his performance anchors the show in such an important way. And I don't think if you have this show and have a different actor as Peacemaker, I don't know if it works, honestly. Because of John Cena's, it really feels like he was made for this role. Coming from his days in the wrestling, arenas and these kind of giant flamboyant characters he would play, it was amazing how he not only this ridiculous Peacemaker who would talk about Aquaman fucking a dolphin, or when he goes on that ridiculous list. I can't even remember. He's listing all of these superheroes or something that are stupid or something. I don't even remember what he's doing. And it's just,
he's listing every pop culture celebrity he can think of. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going. It's really amazing. It's fucking hilarious. Those moments, but also these quiet, sad, emotional moments with him. These moments of loneliness. These moments of realizing he has a racist piece of shit dad. And I thought that was maybe this show kind of had this theme of realizing where you came from and deciding where you want to go, and those not having to be the same things in some ways, you know what I mean? And I thought it was such a powerful way that he, like, in the beginning of the show, he's like this very subservient, trying to make his dad happy at all times, trying to kind of live in a dream world where his dad's proud of him and loves him. And then by the end of the show, it's realizing, oh, wow, my dad is not a good person, hurts people, hates people. And he tried to make me that way too. And now I'm going to stand up to him, and I'm, going to basically kill him or fight him. You know what I mean? And I thought the arc of that was so well done. So well done. And just, John Cena played this great character. Peacemaker is basically a child in a man's body. He sees
overly
overly
large male's body.
Yes, exactly. But like, he sees the world in kind of this beautiful simplicity that sometimes he's just like wrong about, or he crosses lines or something. But there is this like innocence about his character that's just like kind of just starting to see the world as it is in this show. He's like finally starting to wake up to reality versus this kind of fantasy world he's always lived in. And man, he absolutely nailed it. The other thing I'll say is that out of nowhere, Freddie Stroma's vigilante character stole the show in some episodes. Like, as good as Cena was, in particular, the episode where he goes to the prison and gaslights all the racists.
Oh yeah,
it's like like just that whole sequence of him like walking up all like chipper and happy and like this biggest doofiest grin on his face. He has this kind of nerdy look when he's not in the costume with these like glasses and just kind of this like, he kind of has like that computer guy, like IT guy nerdness to him. But man, he was fantastic. And his chemistry with John Cena was like, it was so good.
His first, like, I think human scene where he's out of the costume unmasked, when he's putting the trash out in the back and he's like, yeah, I got my girlfriend pregnant and stuff. And the guy's like, so you've been wanting me to set you up with my sister forever, and you just got a girlfriend pregnant? You got your girlfriend pregnant? And he's like, oh, we're getting an abortion. And he's like, why are you so happy about it? Or it's just like, it's so awkward and it's so cringy in a fun way, But no, I think you're hit the nail on the head here, especially with Cena. I've never been a wrestling guy. I respect it. I've had friends in the past that really love the sport and love the entertainment aspect of it, and I've always respected that of it. And I've always liked John Cena because, just the fun facts that he's made more Make-A-Wish Foundation things than any other celebrity out there, which is a really, really cool thing. And it seems like he's always been just a genuinely nice person, behind the camera or whatever. And he always played the hero role in the wrestling universe. So when he come on the scene, like in Trainwreck and some other comedies, I was all down for it. And I always also respect somebody also who can put themselves through the physical ringer like that and keep up with it and just look as good a shape as he does. And so I've always admired that part of him. So I think seeing him and Robert Patrick here, who is his dad in this movie, who he played the T-1000 in Terminator 2, and ironically, John Cena's first acting thing ever was in the movie called The Marine, and it's actually an amazing like B action movie, and the main bad guy is Robert Patrick in it. It's pretty interesting how that worked out.
Yeah.
But seeing that relationship and like seeing the dinner table scene alone just tells you everything you need to know about Peacemaker. That his dad is this white like it's every bad thing in the book that his dad is, right? And you can just really see he wants this approval from his father, but also he is starting to, the death of Rick Flag in particular is starting to weigh on him, and maybe he's starting to kind of see everything the classic, everything I thought I knew was maybe wrong, or at least different than I thought. A few characters here. Let's just kind of go through, and we'll start getting to the kind of the plot of the thing. I wasn't super sold on Daniel Brooks as Leota Adebayo, who is Amanda Waller's son in the beginning, daughter. Sorry. And I wasn't 100% sold on that, but I immediately warmed up to her, and their relationship become obviously a huge focal point in the show, especially in the end. I thought she actually did pretty good in the fight scenes, and she was funny and she was energetic. Yeah, Freddie Stroma, again, you said Vigilante. His costume actually looks cooler than Peacemaker's costume, in my opinion. And, you know, he always come in
It looks
and
like a Power Ranger kind of look, but like
it does, yeah.
cool, but slightly cooler kind of thing.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, his humor is always welcomed. I think sometimes it was like he is so stupid sometimes, so it kind of got in the way for me a little bit. But some of the decisions he made, but overall it works for the most part. I don't know how to say his name. Chukwudi Iwuji, I guess, is Clemson Mern, who is the leader of this like side task force as here, which James Gunn liked him so much in this that he did decide to hire him again for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and we all think he could be the High Evolutionary is who we think that he could be playing, or Silver Surfer. We don't know. I doubt Silver Surfer. I bet it's High Evolutionary. He was great. He was a good teammate, and of course his arc was pretty interesting, especially finding out that he was one of the butterflies here. And then Jennifer Holland, who has been in a few things in the past, but actually, if you follow James Gunn, he was it's actually his now fiance, but was his girlfriend during the last 4 or 5 years, and she's cast as Jennifer Holland, which I also love. You know, it's one thing. It's a good thing to talk to her about this. I'm not always a fan of politically correct things in entertainment and that kind of stuff. I feel like we get it so much on the outside world. Sometimes I don't want to hear it in other entertainment, that kind of things. And like, I understand what's going on. I don't need to be bashing head over it, that kind of stuff. But this show is definitely politically correct in terms of like, it has a lot of different themes here. What's happening culturally, and basically the idea of like, this person has beliefs and this person has beliefs, but even with those different beliefs, these two people can be friends, which I really think is Peacemaker and Adebayo's character. So meeting her, she is, I love like meeting her in the bar, and Peacemaker does kind of stalk her and goes to the bar, and she's like, I just want to fucking drink, leave me alone. And he's just like, I want to have sex or whatever. Like, I really liked all that stuff. I think it worked for the show. I think I don't know why in this case it didn't bother me. In other cases it does bother me, or at least it feels like hammering me over the head. It does work in this one. I think part of that is because Peacemaker is coming from such a dark place, like his father, and his father is like the ultimate, like, it's no gray area with his father. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I think for me, why it works is because I think sometimes when we're getting, like you're right, some politically correct teaching almost, it feels like it's tacked on to a story that doesn't need it, right? It feels like, okay, we've got this cool story, but at this moment, the filmmaker would like to teach us something, or basically preach, the writers or whatever, and it doesn't feel natural to the journey the characters are on or something, and it feels tacked on. It feels forced in there to try to appease some sort of like the masses in terms of like the woke, some sort of cultural approval of, oh yes, this has said the right things. And I think with Peacemaker, that's what this show is about. This show is about wrestling with the past generations' curses and mistakes that have been passed on to us, and seeing them for what they are and deciding to move on from them. Like, that is Peacemaker's journey. That is what his character goes through. And so, yes, we're seeing, Robert Patrick's character, who's like this stereotype of, he really is kind of a racist, misogynistic asshole stereotype in many ways. He kind of represents all those things. But the show is about the relationship there, and the relationship of Peacemaker realizing these things about his dad and wanting to move on. And I think that just feels real, because I think that is a lot of what even our generation has gone through and past generations have gone through, is this, you're raised a certain way. And as children, you don't have a choice but to believe that the way you were raised is right. It's just how the brain works and how like development works. You're going to believe that how you were taught is the right way. and other people that were taught differently is not. And so I feel like what Peacemaker's journey in this show is very mirroring of a lot of the journey I think probably a lot of our generation has gone through of, well, I was taught that this was right and this was wrong, but having grown up, I see there's more nuance here. Or I see that, you know, what I was taught was black and white is actually really gray. Or what I was taught is wrong. And I can see why I was taught that because of fear or control, whatever it was. And so for me, the political messages in this are not political messages for the sake of being political messages. They are not there to preach to us to say, hey, here's what you should believe and here's what you should not believe. I think that's what we get a lot in like these other versions of it where it's like misogyny is bad or whatever. Like it's just very like, it's very basic levels of like, don't do this, do that. It's not an interesting thing to say about it. It's things that most people already know. This show isn't about those messages. It's about a character that is going on a journey that those messages are inherent to. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like just in terms of like, I'm curious, is Red Dragon, Robert Patrick's character, is that from the comics? Is like Peacemaker's dad Red Dragon and this like
I'm pretty sure he is
leader type guy.
I'm not sure the KK. I don't think that part of it, but I think he is the Red Dragon. I could be wrong, but the only thing I do know for a fact is that he does kind of haunt Peacemaker specifically after his death, and Peacemaker kind of sees him, which we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best to navigate this real quick. I feel like I won't lie. It always kind of makes me a little nervous to talk about this kind of stuff, especially on the air, just because you don't know if you might accidentally say the wrong thing and you didn't mean to say something or it comes off with something else. And then, you know, later you get in trouble for it. But here it goes. I think also the things that they're talking about are for the majority of it, like we can all get behind the things they're saying, right? It's not good to treat women as objects and to stalk them and to be creepy as fuck. It's not okay to be racist. And I mean, he's like, it's not even like, you know, he's accidentally being racist. Like Peacemaker's dad is full blown. He's a leader of the KKK in some respects, right? So, like, it's okay to do that. And on the flip side of that, the thing you see from Peacemaker is that, you know, he does have racist tendencies, but also it's not coming from a place of hate. It's coming from a place of misunderstanding and also trying to show affection in the wrong ways. And not even I wouldn't say the wrong way, but like, that sounds like it's intentional, but in the only way that he has learned how, you know? And like, I think there's even moments where it was kind of flipped in some scenes where he's like, Jesus Christ, quit being so uptight. I was trying to give you a compliment. And there's a little bit of that. And I don't think that, you know, obviously that's up for debate, but I'm saying like, there's also a little bit of that push and pull there too. Like, well, you know, I didn't mean it that way. I was trying to be a good person kind of thing. And the intention's there. And I think the big thing is a good lesson from all of it is a lot of times people hear the bad thing and they don't ask, hey, what did you mean by that? And that's a big thing, because sometimes someone could say something that they don't mean to say, or they don't know any better, and they're like example, hey, I like your ass. You know, I would never say that to a girl, whatever, X, Y, well, I'm not, you know, I would if I was dating or whatever, but I'm saying I wouldn't say it to her, you know, passing in the streets, right? Yeah. So I wouldn't say that, you know, and he's just so ignorant to social cues that he thinks it's a compliment, you know, and obviously, you know, I don't care if you call him a pig, whatever, but there's also the extra layer there of like, hey, why did you say that? And then understanding why someone says it, and then saying, hey, well, here's why maybe that wasn't a good idea to do that. And that's an important piece to this puzzle of conversation that I think was shown throughout the show that we need to do more so in our culture and society.
What it is it's empathy. What you're talking about is empathy, and it's saying, and I think that is the beauty of the show, is it is an empathetic show. It's like, let's take a character who is unlikable on the surface, who has big issues with how he treats people and how he even, you know, presents himself in certain contexts, and let's show him growing. Let's show growth. I think you're right. Oftentimes, in our climate, politically, everyone wants to scold everyone. Everyone
Yeah.
wants to say, and this is why you're wrong, and this group of people are wrong, and all this kind of stuff. And what it comes from is it's not understanding, hey, why would a person think this way? Well, they were probably taught to think that way when they were a child and were very malleable and didn't really have a choice who they listened to. And so it's not Peacemaker's fault that he has these racist tendencies, but it is his responsibility to do something about them once he's made aware. And we see that growth in him, is that once he is made aware of what he is doing and how that affects people he cares about, once he is made aware of where his issues are coming from, kind of this inheritance of these bad ideas, then he decides, okay, well, I don't want to be like that anymore. So I'm going to do what it takes to not be like that anymore. And I think that is why this show works so well with those political messages, because it's not trying to pretend that, like, you know what, if you don't just have it figured out, you're never going to figure it out. And only these people got it figured out. And these people are just dumbasses and fuck them. And no one cares. You know what I mean? It's very much this, like, hey, everyone is on a journey of growth. Everyone is starting at a different point on that journey. Some people had really great environments growing up, and you know what? They're starting really well. They didn't start, you know, with some really bad ideas that they had to overcome, or some really bad, like, you know, mental constructs that were ingrained into them. But some people are, and it's not their fault. And they had no choice who they were born to and who raised them and how on any of that went. They're just dealing with what's in front of them. And we have to give those people space to change. We have to be empathetic enough to say, you know what? I believe there's someone inside of you that isn't this and that wants better. And I believe in that. And that's that's kind of how I want to see these people. So I agree. I think this is maybe I would say the most political superhero content we've ever had, maybe, in terms of movies or shows that is just fairly darn political in terms of, like, current issues and socio problems. And it nailed it, and it does it better than any of the other times we've had with, like I think of, like, the girl team shot in, like, Endgame, right? Where it's kind of like this manufactured, let's get all the women superheroes to be together and fight. And it's supposed to be kind of this, like, woman power kind of thing, which is like a kind of a political, socio-political moment, but it feels so contrived. It feels so fake. It feels so, oh, someone just decided to do this at, like, a boardroom level kind of thing. Oh, we should have this shot. And it doesn't actually feel like the movie and the story produced this naturally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas
No,
Peacemaker,
100%.
which is almost constantly political, and every episode is highly political. None of it feels like, oh, well, they forced this show into this message. They crammed this idea into this political idea that they're trying to get across. No, it's just like, this is the story. And these political ideas are inherent to the story, and we're just going to tell it well. You know what I mean? And to me, that is a huge commendation. I think this show deserves to be recognized and praised for that.
Yeah. I agree. And also, real quick, let's go ahead and have our mid ad break, and it's from our friends at the Geek Squared Show. You've heard them before, and time to hear them again.
Good morning, everybody! Are you ready for Season 2 of the Geek Squared Show? Of course you are. For those of you who are unfamiliar with our podcast, Geekcast, if you will, we are your new favorite pop culture podcast hosted by us.
Two geeks, cousins, and lifelong friends.
My name's Emma.
And I'm Tilly.
And we love to talk video games, Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Disney, old movies, new movies, cult classics, pretty much anything goes. It's the show where we talk about the things that we talk about. We release new episodes every Monday morning to start your week off with something nice. So join us while we talk about the plethora of geeky things 2022 has to offer and revisit some old favorites.
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts.
That's The Geek Squared Show, all letters, no numbers, and don't forget to subscribe.
Thank you for watching with your ears, and enjoy the rest of your podcast.
And that's from our friends at the Geek Squared Show. Funny enough, I spelled out squared, and they said no letters, all numbers. But oh well. you get it. You get it, people. The Geek Squared Show, right? Anyway, thank you for sharing that with us, and I hope people can go check out their podcasts and all podcast services. Yeah. So, I think you're right, Daniel. I think they do a good job of kind of navigating some of these waters. I didn't, there was times I felt it was, of course, a little preachy because James Gunn has this cadence when he does any type of joke or type of gag where it's like it doesn't just go back once, it goes back like in a conversation. The gag goes for like ever, right? And a good example of that would be in Guardians when like Peter and Rocket are going back and forth on duct tape. You have duct tape kind of thing, and it's just like this long gag here, and like he has that kind of thing, which is like, probably my least favorite thing about James Gunn, but I digress. So let's talk about the plot here and get some and kind of start to wrap this up. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I think that I love seeing Eagly. I love seeing this team come together.
Oh, man.
I love the mysteries of the butterflies, and what I thought was really good was I loved how the episodes immediately picked up right after the last episode. Like I was always, when an episode ended, I was like, dang it, I gotta wait again. And I really enjoyed I think it was the first 3 episodes that dropped together. Or 2, maybe it was 3. I really love that they did that because I got like a little mini Peacemaker movie real quick and kind of really got to dive into this world and kind of set up my expectations of what to expect. No pun intended. I love the butterfly mystery. I love the different helmets he had. I think the opening. I think the scene. We'll talk about the opening in a second. But the scene where he goes and he has sex with the presumed, I guess not hooker, but it's someone he picks up in the bar. Yeah, and turns out to be a butterfly, and she just throws this man baby around through the walls, and it's cut to the music. It's fantastic, and it's just so fun. And even like him caught in like tying up the couple, and the other chick is flirting with John Cena, and the other guy's getting mad about it. It's amazing. It's so good.
I completely agree. The butterfly plot was just it was enough horror and kind of like alien invasion kind of like grossness that was kind of like freaky in a way that like made you more curious about it. And also it was like, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I just thought like, especially by the end when they're like taking over like an entire police squad and stuff, that just felt really fun and cool and like epic in a way that matched like the scale of the show,
right?
But not so much that it was like we have to save the world right now because they're going to blow it up. It was kind of like if we don't stop them now, in a few years we're fucked, kind of almost thing. Right?
Yeah.
And I really liked that. I really loved all of that. I will say too that speaking of a couple of the other minor characters, I really liked that each one of them had such an like almost every single character in this had an arc.
Yeah.
Right. Jennifer Holland's character was this arc of like learning to trust people more, learning that, and learning to see past like the initial impression to find something else beyond that person. Danielle Brooks, Adebayo's character, her arc of like learning who she wants to trust, like learning, like, is she willing to do things for her mom that she disagrees with morally just because it's her mom saying to do it? Or does she want to like be independent of that and be the person she wants to be? For Steve Agee's character, Econominos, Diebeard, man, his moment in that final episode.
It's probably the best moment in the final, like emotional moment in that final episode, probably.
Oh man, it was so good, man.
It was, and very sad.
And just out of it, kind of like surprised me. Like I wasn't expecting that to happen, especially like kind of in this high tense, like he's trying to get out of the barn because he planted the charges or whatever. Like I was just like, wow, like and such a beautiful moment of like watching John Cena like realize what impact his words have, right? And just like, man, it was so good. And I think I would say Myrn probably had like the least of an arc, because he kind of was in this place of like he knew everything, he knew more than every other character. But I did like his sacrifice. I did really like the way he sacrificed himself, and this kind of like he really did care about them, even if he was kind of an asshole a lot to them.
Yeah.
I just think the fact that they were able to tie every one of these characters' arcs up satisfyingly and have this great kind of just overall plot of the butterflies and finding the cow, man, like it's just really good storytelling. It's just really good. Like, I cared about every single character in that group. And, like, when's the last time, like, I genuinely loved each one of them for different reasons?
Yeah, they all brought something different to the table.
Impressive.
I mean, even seeing they argue more than they don't, but then seeing the moments where they really literally like personify in a picture. But the moment where they're on the bus together and they're all laughing and they're sharing this moment of like of teammate, you know, of camaraderie together, and that stuff's all great. It's all great. I did like the mystery of kind of like what the butterflies were. And I love the ending, of course, in terms of he has the helmet and then Adebayo. What does he say? Initiate.
He says activate human torpedo.
Yeah, and she unwillingly becomes a torpedo, and it's that's pretty brilliant. I will say this: I do have a little pushback here on the message. It really feels like James Gunn was trying to say, "Hey, the best Peacemaker made a good decision, or he wanted to be with his friends, but the decision he made may have been the wrong one. Like, it may have been better to have people in power make decisions for everybody for the betterment or the survivability of the human species." And I'm not for that. I mean, you might feel different, Daniel. I'm in the camp of I would rather the human species burn out than be controlled by other people. I just, personally.
And I didn't feel like the show was saying like, oh yeah, Earth would be better. Our real life would be better if we had alien overlords that forced us to be good with our shit. But I do like that it was kind of this like, I like that the butterflies weren't just like, we want to kill everyone and take over the world and be evil people. You know, like there was some nuance to their motivation. And I think that I like that he had to hesitate. I like that there was this moment of like, oh, okay, like y'all aren't just assholes for the sake of being assholes, kind of like this just we're bad guys because we're bad guys. It's like y'all have this reasoning, and they actually, I think the importance of it is that they actually thought they were doing the right thing. And
which
is always
typical.
the best villain. I don't care what superhero genre it is. If the villain thinks they're really doing the right thing, like by themselves and by everyone, like by the world, it makes everything so much more impactful, and it makes the battle between them and the hero. Even like, I mean, Thanos is the great example too. He thought he was doing the right thing. He thought it was his holy mission, and I think.
There are exceptions. Example, the Joker. I mean, there are exceptions where
there are exceptions, but I think
if the performance and writing and the conflict is good enough where it stands on its own, where you don't need you're just basically a physical or you're a force of nature, which is also its own delicious problems, you know.
But I think of like Killmonger in Black Panther. I think of Thanos. I think
you're right. I think you're right.
These characters that are like I'm doing bad things, but I believe it's for a right reason, and those are just the ones that I really remember. And I'm like, oh man, that was a good villain, you know?
Yeah, I think the characters that they think they're their own protagonist and the hero is the antagonist is the best kind. I mean, it's also the most interesting, I think. So,
exactly.
I 100% agree with that. How many times did you skip the opening sequence?
Only a couple, honestly. Like, I loved it. It was. For one, like it was just fucking impressive. Like someone that has been in like live musicals and like dance numbers, like that was a pretty damn intricate routine they did, and with people that are not dancers naturally. You know what I'm saying? And like I wasn't either in like high school. Like I was like the football player that was also in musicals, and so like. I was not graceful. Like, and we'd have like people in these musicals that are like, they do dance and they like look like professionals in high school. And here's me clumsily spinning around and shit on stage. And like, there was a little bit of that in that, but it felt so earnest and real in that way. Like it made it better watching these people that were like clearly not dancers. They don't do this or don't like regularly, but they're really committing to it and really like doing just this really just impressive number that I was just like, man, I like it was just a pleasure each time watching.
Well, it's a hyper serious, ridiculous thing, and I mean, it's a fun
Yes.
song. Do you want to taste it? And then also, what's it's like it's best way to like talk about it is it's these actors are pretending to be good dancers, but they're not good. Or I can't explain it. It's something like that, right?
It's just they're not professional dancers, but they're really committing to the dance. And like you can always tell when someone is like you can always tell like when someone that is like nervous about dancing, like they're very self-conscious about how they're going to look because they're not dancers a lot or whatever. And you just felt like they committed to it. And I remember reading like apparently it was a bitch to get it done.
Really?
Like, there's just like just because you think like how many people have cues and have to be doing it at the exact time, and how many takes did they have to do to get the right ones? I'm sure that was like maybe a week of filming. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I can just see that taking a long time. But man, the results were just so unique too. Like it's like I've never seen an intro to a show like that, I don't think. In terms of just it's a musical number that has this meta level to it that's like they're just in their costumes doing this dance with these kind of blank expressions on their face.
Yeah.
Where it's like they're almost in character, but they're also like doing something that would never happen inside the reality of the show. It's not like, oh yeah, this is when they went and did a musical in the show plot. You know what I mean? So it's really brilliant. And I think I want to just one more thing I wanted to say about just kind of James Gunn and the show and why I think it works so much. James Gunn had a quote I think about that I read while he was saying this is like, in his opinion, superheroes are stupid, ridiculous in a fun way. Like the idea of these people dressing up in spandex and like basically being like mass murderer psychos that's how they would be in our reality. That's what he likes about them, and he leans into that so that you basically have like Danielle Brooks' character. She felt like just a real person. Like Danielle Brooks, just her character felt like just you would work with a coworker you've had before, someone you knew in high school or college. Like, did not feel like she belonged exclusively to a superhero universe. But so you're taking these like really hyper realistic grounded characters and putting them in situations with these John Cena's, and even more so, like I feel like Vigilante was even more violent and more just like kill happy than John Cena was. And it's just letting them react to it like in a real way, like almost like real people, like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you killing these people? Like having these kind of like real world reactions. And it's like he's actively acknowledging this is fucking ridiculous. And if this really happened, it would be fucking insane if these people were really out there doing this kind of shit. And it's this way of like telling the story like with that in mind, and not trying to pretend that this is normal, or this is a, there's a normal world that would accept these kind of characters as a normal part of their reality. And it's like, no, these guys are fucking nuts, and everyone's gonna treat them like they're fucking nuts. And it's like, and it makes it just all feel so much more authentic, I think. You know what I'm saying?
You're right. Well, I will say one thing to kind of push back a little bit, just on the show in general, and then we'll get into the last thing we'll talk about, which I think you'll probably know what it is. But the only things I really, have problems with, and I had the same problem with the Suicide Squad itself, was the technology that we see just doesn't match up with the universe in which we've been shown so far with the DCEU. Like White Dragon, his dad opens up, and then there's basically a different pocket dimension of room, whatever. Like, it's neat looking, it's fine, but it looks so fantastical, and something that you might see in the Guardians 3 or something, what I mean? And like, we haven't seen anything like that in the other DC movies, and it is kind of weird that we're having people like Peacemaker and Vigilante, and White Dragon's been around, and they drop Batmite, and they drop all these other, and which Batmite I'm pretty sure is like an alternate dimension Batman, from like an evil alternate dimension Batman that's like 4 foot tall or something. I could be wrong on that, but like all these weird things that are just like super deep cut stuff. But also we haven't even properly done an actual Justice League movie yet. And like, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I really like Zack Snyder's Justice League. I wasn't the ultimate hater on Justice League when it came out, but you know, like I've enjoyed all these movies on some level because of what they are, but we still haven't had the equivalency of Avengers or an Age of Ultron, or you know, nothing like that. So it still kind of hurts me a little bit, and I'm hoping
Sure.
that with the Flash coming out this year and that kind of stuff, it may maybe paint some of these things in a different light. But kind of leads me to this, which is the big cameo at the end, right? So after Peacemaker saves the day and kills the cow and stops all the butterflies, we do get a scene from a cameo from the Justice League themselves, and they are. It's, you know, so we see Henry Cavill Superman in the dark. We see Wonder Woman Gal Gadot in the dark. And we also see Flash and Aquaman played by Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa.
Yes.
And they had this, and they showed up just for this little fun, cute gag that's been going on that Aquaman fucks fish, right?
Yes.
So, which was fun, and it is kind of, you know, interesting that, you know, I guess you're making content from any age, but it's kind of interesting that Justice League, they would let them do that, or at least Warner Brother HBO would let them do that, which I don't mind, honestly. It's like fine, it's whatever. But you know, Flash was wearing his Justice League suit. He wasn't wearing his new Flash suit that he has in his movie. Aquaman was wearing his King of Atlantis suit that he gets in his movie, and then we know that it was supposed to be Henry Cavill, and we talked about this a little bit on 2 for 1 Joe Live, Daniel, but we know that it was supposed to be Henry Cavill, like it was his suit, it was Gal Gadot's suit, and actually, if you look on the far right and left, there are blank spots there. They had Batman and Cyborg there, but Warner Brothers made them take them out, and yeah, exactly, and like I was so surprised they even got a stunt double for the Cyborg thing because of Ray Fisher. But it's also interesting that took out Batman. James Gunn said, yeah, they may or may not have plans with them, so they wanted to kind of take them out for whatever reason. Do you think people, like a lot of Snyder Cut fans, I don't feel this way, but a lot of, are like, man, Henry Cavill's really getting the stiff end on this, and like they're not really letting him even cameo for this, and like he's made more in the dark cameo appearances than he has live action appearances. It feels like it's not true, but it feels like, you know. So, how do you feel about this scene, and what do you think it means for the future?
I loved it. I thought it was hilarious, and just a fun way to connect Peacemaker, like to kind of reestablish his connection within the wider universe of the DCU that we have. I don't really read anything to Henry Cavill not being there. I mean, it could have just been a fucking budget issue. I'm sure they had to pay Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa even a good chunk for, even if they were probably set half a day, maybe, you know what I mean? And like they probably still had to pay him, and who knows, they may would have had to pay Henry too. So it could have been a budget issue. It could have been a scheduling issue. I mean, Henry's busy, you know what I mean? I don't feel like, especially for such a non-pivotal or it's not like this is a huge moment for the Justice League or like whatever. It makes sense to me that they either only had the budget or only could figure out the scheduling for 2 of the 5 Justice League, you know, and when especially like half of them are like A-list stars, like getting work constantly, you know what I'm saying? So like that does not, I just don't read anything into that. I just think, well, maybe this is something weird with Henry Cavill and Superman, or maybe just scheduling, maybe just budget, you know, who knows? But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. And honestly, I'm kind of at this point where I'm like, I could see DC EU really making a name for themselves, being the like, we're the adult superhero shows that can say fuck, that can talk about sex with fish, and that can be gory. And that being kind of like, well, this can be another way we really differentiate ourselves from Marvel. Because and even, you know, hinting at, you know, our review later, we watched the Batman last night. That movie did not feel like it was for kids. That movie felt like it was for adults and young adults. And like, I would not be comfortable taking my son to that movie until he was much older, just in terms of the dark nature of it. And so I don't know. I feel like there's really room there for the DCU to double down and keep going in that direction, and really feel like they stand out in a way that feels good, different, not we're trying to be different for different sake, but that, hey, we're going to tell adult superhero stories for adults that can handle the F word and jokes about boners and whatever, you like dolphin sex, you know what I mean? So like, I liked it. I hope they keep going that direction. Like that is where that's where you can get me really interested and invested in more DCEU properties if you're going to do it like that.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't think most of their movies will be that way. I know Black Adam won't. I know Aquaman won't. I know The Flash won't. So I think it might just be every now and then we'll get like a Peacemaker season 2. Of course, we're getting Penguin, another Gotham show. It looks like, or a Gotham PD show.
But
on
at least
HBO
we are
Max.
getting it from them. At least there's a sliver of that universe that is that. Where it's hard for me to imagine the MCU ever. I mean, we'll see. I guess with Deadpool 3, what that looks like, because that would be like kind of their one real moment where they might have an R rating. They might go in that way a little bit, but like, beyond that, I don't know if Disney would ever be okay with that being a part of their brand.
Yeah, well, I mean, in 10 days, The Punisher and Daredevil is fixing on Disney Plus, so it's pretty interesting. Or it's kind of telling that they're willing to do. It's a whole other market that they could tap into, and I think with Bob Chapek, I think he's definitely much different than Bob Iger. Like Bob Iger is very protective of the brand. Bob Chapek, I can't say his name. He it feels like that he's more about, well, we need to broaden our base as wide as possible, even if it's against the traditional Disney brand. So, which I think is good for me, So, but I understand the pitfalls of that. So, I'm excited for a season 2. I think that's without saying, and I'm curious to where they go with it. And I have no idea. I mean, like, what to expect from the DCEU. I think after this year, I think in 2023, we could probably have a solid conversation of like, okay, here's where things are going. We'll have Black Adam. We know Shazam is on the way. We know the Flash will be the big one that really kind of resets everything and kind of shows what our expectations are of this universe and the multiverse and where things kind of sit and lie. And I guarantee, I mean, I'm surprised they haven't. Maybe they have while the streaming, but they're going to announce the Batman 2 anytime. Like, it's just going to happen. Yeah. And it has to. So, Daniel,
I'm also excited for season 2. Sorry.
Sorry. No.
Last thing I'll say is I'm really happy this show ended its story with the season. I'm really glad we didn't get like a cliffhanger that was like, oh, you'll have to come back for season 2 to finish this whole like kind of butterfly plot out. Yeah. I'm getting less and less tolerant of shows that are like, what it feels like is trying to manipulate me into wanting season 2 rather than like telling a good story that stands on its own and then telling another good story the next time. So that was just something that made me happy. If you want to write into 241 Studios to let us know what you thought of Peacemaker, you can do that. You can write into bit.ly/241mail and we'll read it on the show. Let us know what you thought of Peacemaker. Are we off the mark? Are we on the mark? Is there something we missed? Because I feel like there's probably some good things about this show that we kind of just didn't get a chance to talk about. I just thought this show from top to bottom was just really impressive. So let us know, bit.ly/241mail.
And of course, if you can't hit up our mailbag, you can always write in the comments in the comment section below. Either you can comment live as we're airing, or you can always leave a comment and we will try to get back to you in some way or another. Again, the mailbag you write in and we'll try to actually answer your questions on the show versus in the comments. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, hit that subscribe button, that notification bell. Show us your love and support. We're brought to you by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue. Daniel, it's always a pleasure talking Peacemaker. I'm really excited talking about the Batman. I think after we watched it, we talked for a while, but then after that, got back home, I talked even more with Matt, and we really kind of broke things down a lot. And I've got thoughts. I may see it again here in the next hour or so. I don't even know yet, but just so I can kind of really wrap my head around it. But we'll see what happens. So I'm excited to talk to you about it next week, and in a couple of weeks we'll have Bruce Hutchinson back on to talk another movie. I believe it's The Truman Show. Don't quote me on that. But that'll be in a couple weeks, I believe. Yeah, it'll be fun. And of course, if you want more 241 news and other pop culture things that they happen throughout the week, you can always tune in at 241 Joe live on youtube.com/241 Studios at 9 a.m. every Monday. Daniel, I'll talk to you later, man. It was a pleasure.
It was.
My name is Donovan Thompson.
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.